Good afternoon and welcome to my channel. My name is Joyce and I do all things personal development. If this is your first time and seeing my face, welcome. For those of you that keep coming back, an even warmer welcome. I really do appreciate your patronage and your engagement. And of course, if there's anything that you would prefer to see, let me know. Well, today have I got a topic for you because I thought it was quite an interesting one. I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday. I was going to say last night, but it was actually during the day, about the law of assumption. Now, if you've been in the metaphysical world for a little bit, or this is not a sentence or a word that is unique, or a law rather, that is unique to you. But the law of assumption really just says what it does on the tin. Assume it, believe it, it becomes a reality. Now, usually when something is law, it means that it's irrefutable. But I beg to differ, because I think even in metaphysical, everything that happens in life really hinges on the person that is wielding the law, right? So for things to become a reality, you have to believe it. For me, I completely believe that you can be, you can do, and you can have absolutely anything you choose to have in life. The caveat is you have to believe it. Your grandmother doesn't have to believe it. Your mother doesn't have to believe it. Or your cousin doesn't have to believe it. You have to believe it. Now, there are some times and there are some laws that can be effective if we, on behalf of somebody else, especially if people are minors, for example. You know, you've heard of people going and being healed spontaneously in religious festivities, etc., etc. I'm not going to get into that. And I am a huge proponent of the golden rule. And the golden rule essentially is do unto others as you would like done unto you. So if you would not like people doing stuff on you, do not do it on others, because what goes around comes around. Now, the law of assumption has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years. And essentially, as I said before, it's really big in the metaphysical world. And it's a way of bringing your reality to life. And I always say, start small. Whatever it is that you are doing, whatever it is that you are believing in to become a reality for you, start small. Because when you start small, it builds your faith. It reminds you of the possibility, and it actually creates less resistance in your own mind. What we do know is that your mind or your brain doesn't necessarily understand what is real and what is unreal. Now, if you've ever been watched a horror or, you know, the thrillers or violent films, I tend not to, because I know my level of fear. I am quite a scaredy cat, to be honest. And I don't like something that will rattle me, not just physically, but also spiritually, where you start looking, you know, as you're walking in your own home because you've been so petrified. So I tend not to watch horrors. But if you've ever watched a horror, you will see your hands will sweat, your eyes will go, the slightest noise will set you crazy, you know, and you'll start seeing things that don't exist because your mind can play games on you. And so this is the tool and this is the skill that you do use when you're using the law of assumption to trick your mind about the reality or the possibility of what it is that you desire. So let's talk about assuming that you want, you know, what is it that they say about a job? They say you don't dress for the job you have, you dress for the job you want. That essentially is a law of assumption. You just know because you want that job, you are dressing as that, you're behaving as that, and eventually people will start pulling you aside as somebody who has that knowledge, who has that skill. Now, obviously, at some level, you're going to need to put in the time to be able to do that, because you need to be able to speak the language of the thing that you do desire to manifest, or the job rather that you desire to manifest. So there are things that you need to do in order to align yourself or position yourself in a way that says to the world that here you are ready. And it's exactly the same with the law of assumption. You have to, first of all, decide what it is that you want. And then you've got to go into your, what they call the theater of your mind. And every single, I usually say 2 or 3 times a day, get 5-10 minutes and remind yourself using all of the senses, because I think one of the reasons why your body aligns itself is because you have used, your eyes, your nose, your words, all of the 5 senses to breathe life into that vision, into that dream that you have. And then after that, you have got to align yourself with your actions, with your words, and with your belief system. So it can't just be something that you do in isolation. It has a domino effect in terms of how you live your life. And so in order for you to be, do, and have it, you have got to believe it. You have got to act like it. And then you've got to end the conversation. So for example, you decided that you wanted to go on holiday to, let's say you wanted to come to London, right? You have believed that this is possible and you're going to make it manifest in the next 6 months, right? And then somebody asks you, maybe a week later, or where are you going on holiday? It can't just be, I'm not going anywhere, because you've already decided. Now, whether you tell them or not is a different ballgame. So you may not necessarily want to have that conversation with people, especially people that do not necessarily believe or even think it's possible for you. So they might end up talking you out of that vision. So you might say, oh, I'm going to let you know in due time, for example. Or if it's somebody that you think in your own mind, you might be able to say, oh, I know exactly where I'm going on holiday because I'm going to England, right? I'm going to London. So you have to make sure your clothes are right. So if you live in a hot country, in the summer here is not necessarily the warmest place. So you have to align. You have to make sure that everything you say and do with regards to the next 6 months is focused on you going on holiday in London. So I'll unpack it a little bit more tomorrow as well. But essentially, the law of assumption is believing that you have already that thing before it manifests in the 3D. Is it possible? Hell yeah. Have I done it? Absolutely. Maybe I'll give you a few more examples a bit later on. But the law of assumption, one of the best teachers for it is Neville. If you have never heard of him, it's worth listening. But yeah, anything is possible. That's my belief. Honestly, I keep saying all the time, the life that I am living now would have been completely impossible for me 20 years ago. I didn't even believe that I could be anything that I imagined. To me, my life at the time was always what was said by other people as possible for me became my reality. But I soon realized that actually you have the right to determine the kind of life that you want to live. And then you have to go ahead and live that life, because anything is possible if you believe it. You are the catalyst of your life, and you can change anything you choose if you choose. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Take care.